Hello. Yeah, maybe it'd be. I'm still here. Is it? Is okay? Because I have another interview to do at 7, so I have to do this quite soon now, David. If that's possible. Otherwise, we can reschedule for later. I prefer to record you so that I can, rather than on the phone or WhatsApp, so that I don't misquote you. And it's also they're quite interested in the website in you, so they want me to build the story of all the repatriation around what you and your family are going through, and they quite like this interview to be used in the article. You know how they can drop that in. So yeah, sure, sure. Hey, David, how are you? Hello, David. Hello, David. Hello, David. Okay, I can see you, David, but I can't hear you. Magnificent backdrop. I think if I was at Fox at Cape Town, I'd come around to your place to do the recordings. Can't hear you. Oh, you were there and you've gone. Hey. Hello, David. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. Which background did you prefer, this background or the sunset background?
No, the sunset is spectacular. In fact, if I was in Cape Town, I'd be banging on your door to do it as a stand-up background all the time.
No, but that sunset background is a virtual background. It's
oh, it's not real. Okay. No, then I think
it actually is real. If you have a look right now, can you see? Hold on. Hold on. If you have a look right now, you'll see it is real.
Oh yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, but I took it the other night.
So I think
it is real, but it's not. I mean,
yeah, I think it looks too posh. So I think the background that you're giving me is good, but with less headroom. So bring the camera down a bit, because you've got a lot of space above your head, you know? Oh, there's the real, yeah.
Like, I don't know, is this
That's
ridiculous
pretty
or
good.
not?
No, that's pretty good, but I think it just need less space above your head, David. There, it's getting better. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I want to see your head more towards the top of the screen. There, it's getting better. Getting better. Yeah, I can live with that. The lighting's good.
Okay.
Okay, this is very good. Okay, I think yes, I am recording. So let's try this, David. Just explain to me, first of all, obviously looking at the camera, how did you get stuck in South Africa? You were telling me about how you missed the last flight. Tell me in your own words, how did you get stuck in South Africa?
Well, our flight was out on the 28th of March, which was a Saturday night. And that was actually the last United Airline non-stop flight from Cape Town. It's a seasonal flight from Cape Town to Newark. The president of South Africa had announced a week before about the isolation, but he never said anything about canceling the flights. So we checked with United Airlines all the way up until the 24th, 25th, and they were still flying that flight. It was only on the 25th that they canceled the flights internationally. So we went on standby on the 26th because the 28th was canceled. And we went on standby. I went with my two boys, and unfortunately, we waited at the airport we must have been there for about 4 hours or 5 hours. And we were the next ones on standby, number 13, 14, and 15. And sadly, we didn't make the flight. We were very upset at that time.
And you've been trying to get home since then. What's happened regarding the flights? Why has it taken so long, do you think, David?
Well, we've been trying to get back since then, but I think that trying to get flights out of this country when there's a lockdown and coordinating it with the US government and the South African government to allow you to land and take off, I think that's a huge job. And it was something that took the US consulate by surprise, obviously, because suddenly South Africa didn't allow you to leave. So suddenly a plane that was supposed to leave on the Saturday night, which was probably a full United Airlines flight, was canceled, and all those people probably wanted to get back. So I think it was just a function of how complicated it was for them to do it. Now, bear in mind, though, that for some people, that was really frustrating to have to wait. For other people, it was a function of how bad is the virus here in South Africa? How bad would it be versus how bad is it in America? And fortunately for us in Cape Town, it's turning out to be, at least so far, a lot better than any of us would have imagined.
It's, in fact, a situation where I believe you said to me before we started recording that you're a little bit concerned about what happens once you land in the States. In other words, ground transportation back to your home, and the risks that you have on the streets in the US.
Yeah, I'm extremely nervous about going into the US at the moment. If this is a war, as one would call it a war, then we are basically going, and I live in Manhattan, I'm literally going to the middle of where the war is. So being in Cape Town and having to wait a little longer, actually to me, as time went on, and I realized that here wasn't going to be so bad, it actually was quite a good thing. But I'm sure for other people, it must have been very frustrating, as well.
And I'm not by any means a PRO for the US Embassy and the ambassador here, but how has been their contact? You've been trying to find out when the next flight is. How effective have they been in keeping in contact with you?
I have been absolutely astounded at how efficient they have been. We actually first emailed the US Embassy from the airport, and the lady next to us, who also didn't make the flight, suggested we do that. And we got an email back, very, very quickly saying that they're working on it. So, normally when you're tries to reach embassies in the past, it's a bit of a struggle to hear from them. It's just like a blank email. You don't know if anyone's there. And in this particular case, They emailed us, and then they emailed us almost every single day since then. Almost every single day. You know, they ask questions. What's your health like? You know, in terms of flying back, your age, and you know, what's your address? And every day they would send us an email updating us on the coronavirus issues in South Africa, and telling us they're working on it. And so it was nice to feel at least that they were there, that they were always going to be there, and then we would be fine. And that was what was important.
Talk to me about what you understand is going to be the process for the flight. You're not just going to drive to the airport and return your rental car, right? What's the process, and are there health checks, etc.?
No, we're meeting them. The airport's closed here in Cape Town, and I imagine they don't want to have a lot of people arriving at the airport. I think Nigeria had a bit of an issue with that, for example, as well. They want us to meet at a stadium, all meet at a stadium at a certain time. You know, probably we're looking at 4 hours before the flight, possibly. And from there, they're going to check our paperwork, and those of us who don't have papers, we're okay. They'll print it out for us, so we don't have to print it. I think they're sensitive to that, which is also very nice. They've also given us letters that allow us to drive on the road to get to the stadium. And then from the stadium, they're going to take us to the airport. And at the airport, they've told us there must be our own food because the airport's closed. And it's like flying on a private plane. So we can bring our own food and drink. And then on the plane, my understanding is that there will be food on the plane.
Wow, so it's quite well organized. And do you think you'll be screened at some point as well?
They have told us beforehand. Actually, I was very concerned about it. I don't want to be going on the plane with someone who might be sick. So I was actually very concerned about that. But, you know, I wish, you know, I'm hoping, I believe that when we're waiting at the airport in lines, they'll allow us to exercise social distancing. I hope that will be the case. I'll be very upset if it's not. I realize that I have to sit next to people on the plane, which is always an issue. And, you know, I'll have my mask, but unfortunately, getting a mask in this country is not easy. So I'm sure that I imagine most people won't even have masks on the plane. However, what makes me feel good about this is that we have been in lockdown in this country now for almost 2 weeks. And that basically means that, assuming everyone on the plane was well behaved, which I imagine they were, it feels like it's that kind of crowd. I'd imagine that everybody on the plane should be, you know, virus free. In addition to that, if someone is sick, they say they're going to be taking our temperatures. So, yeah,
okay,
that's what they do.
And you're here with your 2 sons, 2 of your 6 sons, I believe. Congratulations. How has it been for them, for Jacob and Josh?
Jacob and Josh are at college right now, and as you probably know, they're doing college remotely. Princeton and Duke do it remotely. And so, and my one son's got a thesis as well. They have actually, I would say they've enjoyed it. I mean, you know, they really have worked hard, and we watch a movie occasionally, and they sleep. That's what teenage boys seem to do. We're eating fairly well. It's actually been a nice time. I mean, it's about attitude, I think, isn't it? And also environment, and we're very lucky to have a decent environment. So I think for us, it's actually been a fairly decent time. I imagine other people may not be as lucky as us in terms of accommodation and maybe last minute being somewhat stranded, but I feel very blessed that way.
Is it possible on this call we've pretty much done with the interview, is it possible to speak to either or both of them, or is that a bit of a schlep, David?
Yeah, I can get them to come.
Yeah, I think so.
I do want to add.
Please do. Please do.
I do want to add that I'm extremely impressed with the amount of work that the ambassador has done to try and get this working. It's my understanding that trying to get it done through DC has been extremely difficult, and I think that it's well known that our ambassador is close to the president. And I think that relationship and her being a doer has allowed this to get done, whereas I think it could have taken a lot longer. Now, so full credit to them, and I think we're all appreciative of that. Having said that, I think no one envisioned that it would be this bad in New York and this good in Cape Town. And so I imagine there are a lot of people who are probably going to stay here rather, because the last week or two have actually been fairly good here in terms of, mortality rates and things like that. And in many ways, you kind of wish that the administration would be a little bit less efficient, because then we could have gone home in 2 weeks' time now, and things hopefully would be a lot better in New York at that point in time.
Neither of us, you or I, David, are diplomats, but at the same time, the ambassador has not only helped with these flights, but also helped when on the day suddenly the South African transport minister cancelled all the flights while some people were in the air to here. She also made personal representations to rescue stranded cruise ship passengers in the Cape Town harbour who were trying to get off the ship. In some ways, I'd just like your opinion on this, just from a personal point of view. You've got seasoned diplomats, and she is not that. This is her very first diplomatic posting, but she's not doing too badly, is she?
No, it's actually very impressive, and it just shows you the power, I would say, of private industry versus government. I think in this case is a great example of how, she comes from, private industry, and I think she's clearly, I don't know her, but she's clearly a go-getter and gets things done. And, I think sometimes when you're working for the government, maybe you're not as efficient. So I think we can all be very pleased that she's in charge.
That's a great soundbite. I'll make sure she gets to hear it. Okay, David, if I could speak to Jacob and Josh just briefly. I'm quite interested in this thing you sent me, the cooking thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been trying to teach Jacob and Josh how to be on TV and how to present themselves and be confident over many years now. And they really are growing into fantastic leaders and talk show hosts. So let me go and see if I can find them, okay?
Yeah. I mean, they're good communicators. I agree with that. I'm not just spying your face. Thanks very much. We'll carry on chatting when they've done. Okay.
All right. I'm trying to figure out how to put this on pause or whatever the case may be, but I'm just going to leave it here, okay?
Yeah, leave it like that.
I'm just going to go to the other room. They're not here.
Okay.
I'm just going to. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go and just going to. They're just getting themselves ready.
Okay, no problem. While
So-
you're there, I've just been contacted while you're waiting, David, by a guy who's a reporter for the local TV, ENCA. I don't know if you've been watching it on channel 403. Quite a good reporter. What would you feel about talking to him? Would you like to?
No. I lost the kids. Maybe they will.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe they will. You know, yeah. Maybe the kids will.
Okay. Yeah, that would work.
I'd rather not, just because it's too. I mean, I trust you, and I don't know who they are, and I haven't got time to go through and speak to them for hours and all that stuff.
Yeah, true. The other thing is that why it's perhaps not good to talk to local media is you have such a strong local presence with your Chest for Change, so you don't really want to be seen to be leaving the country. Do you know what I mean? From a point of view of pursuing that charity.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right. There were things in there. I love this country, and frankly, I'm not sure I'd even be going back now. It wasn't for my boys, so I don't, and I don't want. There's no point in.
Okay, explain who is who. Who's on the left? Who's on the right? Who's on
So
camera?
I'm Josh.
Okay.
I'm Josh. I'm the younger brother, 19, and I go to Duke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Jacob. I'm 21 years old. I'm a senior at Princeton.
Right. Okay. Both amazing places. If I could just ask you to speak one at a time, but I don't care who answers to each of the questions. You can both answer, but one at a time, and keep them fairly brief. Okay. So we'll start recording now. And if I can ask you, how has the lockdown been for you guys?
Well, in Cape Town, the lockdown has been, I think, very clever by the South African government, but we've been indoors and it's been fine. We've been going to the grocery store and stocking up with food and just kind of biding by the days.
And for you?
Yeah, people here are taking it very seriously. Very few people are going outside. 2 people can only go together. You can't even have 3 people who go out at the same time. And I find that people are really abiding by the rules and trying to flatten this curve.
And despite the fact that you're in beautiful Cape Town, you've both been still doing your studies. Is that correct?
Yeah, classes have moved online and I've followed accordingly.
Yep, I even have a class that ends at 3:15 a.m. South African time. And it's been hard to keep up given the time difference. But, we do the best we can. I think our school has done a great job transferring over to Zoom, and we're very thankful.
And we also are blessed because we're now getting your cooking skills. We're getting your podcasts. Tell me about that. You've been spending your time, your little bits of free time between studying. I can't imagine there's a lot of free time, but you've been making podcasts. Talk to me about that, because your dad sent me one, the hamburger one.
So I think quarantine has, some positives in many ways, that you learn new skills that in other worlds you would have, in normal times, you would never have learned, like cooking. We don't usually cook day to day, but we've been learning, we've been enjoying making these videos about teaching, about cooking in the kitchen, teaching how to cook, and it's been awesome.
And are you both going back with your dad tomorrow, or are you staying in Cape Town?
So we're all going back tomorrow morning to America, to where we're from in New York City. We're very anxious and excited to get home and to just reunite with the rest of our family that's in New York.
Okay, that's great. That's been a lovely interview. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll just pause the recording.